Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is another paid request, this time for Lucas. Thank you for that. For those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, topics, reactions, reviews, re-reviews, randomness, out of the blueness, whatever it may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And Lucas wanted me to watch and talk about Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes Season 1. It was 26 episodes long. It took place this time around 2010, give or take. So it was after Iron Man and it was after, Thor and such, but still fairly early on in the cinematic universe. But it was still its own thing. Although I did like that the guy who voiced Iron Man did try to sound like Robert Downey Jr. He didn't do too bad of a job. But pretty much throughout this season, which I would say overall I liked. I did like it. I'm not an expert on the characters in terms of the comic books. The most I know about Captain America and Iron Man and such is from the movies. But I will say they definitely put a lot of different types of villains in here. So it seems like if you're very much more studied in the comic books of the Avengers of yesteryear, a lot of these villains would be familiar to you. And the gist of this season is Captain America is still, just like I said, it's not connected to the movies. Which again, they made the guy sound like Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man, but it's not connected to the movies. Just Captain America is still frozen. You do have Thor, you do have Iron Man, you do have Hulk. And Hulk is more of a badass here than he is in the movies. In the cinematic universe, which is sad. I think they did a pretty decent job with Hulk. I like the idea where Hulk does talk, but there are bits that he'll look and he'll see Bruce Banner in like in a reflection. There are times they're talking to each other, but if people look, they just see the Hulk talking to himself. But there are times where he does converse with Banner, or Banner is deep within and converses with the Hulk. I liked that they employed that tactic into it. Why they couldn't do that in the fucking Mark Ruffalo Hulk, I don't know why. That's one of the things I liked about the 2003 Hulk. That bit where when Hulk is on the plane and there's a bit where Eric Bana is at the mirror and wipes it and Hulk's on the other side. Puny human. I like that bit. You could do more with that. Even that one bit is more than what the fucking Mark Ruffalo Hulk has done. But anyway, you do have Iron Man, you do have Hulk, you do have Thor, and you have Ant-Man and Wasp. Not a lot of Black Widow. She's not part of the team. She appears in a couple episodes, and she's actually a worker for Hydra. So at least in the first season, she's a bad guy. At least for a bit. At least for a bit. Hawkeye is more of the ally for the Avengers. Is that for a bit for Captain America to come into play? Just the way it is, first they start off with little bits of, okay, we set up a bit of Iron Man, we set up a bit of Hulk, we set up a bit of Cap, all this other stuff. When I say set up Cap, like back in the day, dealing with Red Skull and having Bucky, which is a different type of Bucky than in the movies. It was interesting when I was watching the episode. I actually watched Breakout Part 1 and Breakout Part 2 first, and then I saw Iron Man, Cap, Hulk, Thor episodes. Just sort of get the idea of where this was going to go. And the initial setup is that there's a couple prisons that S.H.I.E.L.D. have these villains in. And somehow, by certain circumstances, each of these villains get the prisons get fucked up and the villains escape. And so then the rest of the show is our heroes trying to recapture these villains. I think at one point it was 73, 74 villains. So definitely a lot on their plate. And like I said, Iron Man, I do like the voice actor. He does a good job representing Robert Downey Jr. And Iron Man definitely has that sense of humor that Downey Jr. employed in his movies. So I did appreciate that. Thor looks like Thor in the comics. It doesn't look like Chris Hemsworth. They go with the Thor in the comics and comics, not comments. And he has the type of say nay and dialect a little bit more like the comics. At one point, he does save Jane, but Jane is not really featured that much throughout the rest of the show, at least this first season. And I was talking about villains, like you have Zax and Teen Cobra and Whiplash, and there's the Leader and Absorbing Man and Abomination, but you also Enchantress, the Grim Reaper, which is cool that the Grim Reaper is voiced by Lance Henriksen. I'm like, man, he did a great job on that voice. I wish that villain was in the show a lot more. Number one, because Lance Henriksen, Bishop from Aliens, he was in The Terminator, he was in Near Dark. But he does a good job voicing it, being sinister. I'm like, make him the main villain. I don't care if that's not like the comics. You got Lance fucking Henriksen. Are you listening to his voice? How fucking badass and sinister he sounds? And I think it was Jeffrey Combs voicing the Leader. He was like a big villain for the Hulk. I could be wrong, but it sounded a lot like Jeffrey Combs, which is cool. But the other heroes, I don't recognize the actors who voiced them. But again, these prisons, 3 or 4 of these prisons, they get fucked over, and a lot of villains get released. And it was interesting that in the intro, there was no Captain America. Because again, it takes a few episodes in before Cap comes into play. And even then, it didn't really feel like he was the leader. It still felt like Iron Man in the show is more the leader, if there is a leader. And when you get to Breakout Part 2, you learn a little bit more about Nick Fury. He imprisoned this guy named Graviton. He gets out because of all these prisons getting fucked up. And that's where you get the Avengers working together to take this guy down, who can control gravity. So it's nice to see these characters working together. The action scenes are pretty decent. The animation is fine. It's not up to par with Batman, the animated series, or even some of the maybe Superman or X-Men, but it was still pretty decent. I didn't really have a lot of issues with the fight scenes. And like I said, I like the Hulk will see Banner while others don't. And like there's a connection between Hulk and Banner. I thought that was a very good idea to employ, to keep that Jekyll and Hyde motif strong. Which I think they just threw out the fucking window with the Hulk later on, among other stuff. They just turned him to a fucking joke. One that had to give you a fucking taco in Avengers Endgame, or where the hell it was. So they all get together and beat Graviton, and then again there were one episode that concentrated on Iron Man, then there was one on Captain America, Hulk, Thor, one on Ant-Man and Wasp. Like the Iron Man, before all this, he's stopping Hydra from attacking the UN. And that was interesting that at the beginning they had a guy with a video camera in his POV and these robots are attacking him. I'm like, drop the camera and run, dude. You found footage logic? But then Iron Man's able to save him. And a good chunk of it is him having to fight these robots, especially these big ass robots. And Iron Man just kicks some ass, which is very cool. And then confronts Nick Fury because you're using my tech, and I got out, so now Hydra's using my tech. And I'm pissed off at you, I'm pissed off at S.H.I.E.L.D. for my own club, which will eventually be the Avengers. I thought that was a strong episode for Iron Man. You get a bit of Gwyneth Paltrow's character. She's not voicing it, but I mean her character, Pepper, in the movie. A bit of her, a bit of Rhodey. No War Machine, but a bit of Rhodey. And like I said, the fact that the guy who voiced did try to study how Downey Jr. would say certain lines, I thought was a nice tip to the hat. I thought that was a nice gesture. The Captain America one was interesting because they kind of it kind of looks black and white. I mean, there's a little bit of color here and there, but for the most part, it looks black and white. It's supposed to be a World War II, like in the past, and they're pretty much trying to stop the Red Skull from opening this portal to Asgard, where they're going to get these monsters. One cool bit is part of Captain America's group of the Howling Commandos is Logan, who would be Wolverine. Sally only does like one thing, and then you don't see those guys again. I wish there was more of that. Just like, come on, it's Logan. It's obviously Wolverine. But why they didn't have him do more, like him and others work with Captain America and Bucky inside doing this stuff, I don't know, but they decided not to do that. So I thought, well, wait a minute, you got Logan, use him more. Why just want this one quick bit? Bucky, I didn't care for this version of Bucky. I mean, I did it because it's more like the comics. This Bucky is more like the comics, who was pretty much Robin, the Captain America's Batman. That's who this Bucky was. Which is why I give the change they did for the movies. I think the movie version, played by Sebastian Stan, before being the Winter Soldier and as the Winter Soldier, is just a much better version of Bucky than in the comics. That's just me. And I understand they put him in there because that's more like the comics, but part of me is like, man, I wish there was just no Bucky. And that was what was cool about Captain America First Avenger, looking back on it. Yeah, he had people help him, but for a good chunk of it, it's Captain America do it himself. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. That's what I prefer. Well, here it was total Batman and Robin, Cap and Bucky. So like the comics. Well, cool. But doesn't mean it's what I prefer. And then that also sets up, later on, a villain called Kang the Conqueror. Because apparently he thinks his timeline was deleted because of Captain America. And that doesn't come until later in the season. But again, throughout the years, because of the movies, I think Chris Evans did do a good job portraying the character. I have become more of a fan of Captain America. I didn't grow up with him. I knew of him. And the only thing I had seen of him was that shitty 1990 movie with the fucking fake rubber ears and shit. Matt Salinger's Captain America by Albert Pyun. So it's like, well, if that's the Captain America I knew and grew up with, no wonder I didn't like him back in the day. But I've grown to really like him now, so it was cool to see this portrayal of him. The Hulk episode was pretty cool. I mean, you first see him walking by the side of the road, like the Hulk TV show. I thought that was a nice nod. He's fighting the Absorbing Man. And I like that because the Hulk can talk. They have the Hulk talk, but it works better here than in the later movies. Because Hulk talks, but it's still Hulk-like. Where the Absorbing Man then absorbs rock and he's full of himself, but then Hulk smiles and goes, "Smash rock, Einstein." And then it hits him, and the Absorbing Man's like, "No!" And just Hulk can smash rock easily. And he's also dealing with the military. He's dealing with the chopper, helicopters. You also have Hawkeye and Black Widow, and Hulk is dealing with them. And he does save one of their crew, but then because he's being a good guy, he gets captured, and then that will lead up to him being imprisoned in Breakout Part 1, where then all the prisoners get fucked up. But I thought it was a nice, respectable take on Hulk. I don't mind the look design of him, and again, it's sad that a cartoon Hulk is more respectable than in the new Marvel movies. There's also a Thor episode, there's an Ant-Man episode. In the other episodes, there was one where the Enchantress is messing with the Hulk's mind and trying to get him to fight the other Avengers. And that was a good showcase for Hulk. First off, it was funny because one of the bad guys the Avengers going up to, he's being cocky, but then he keeps seeing an Avenger pop up, then another one pop up, then another one pop up, and then he backs up and he lifts up the Hulk. The Hulk's right behind him. And he's like, "I give up. I give up." I thought that was rather funny. That was pretty amusing. And then that's the start of Tony Stark having the Avengers Mansion and wanting to give them ID cards. I like Hulk and his banter with Thor, where Hulk is like, he pretty much calls Thor a girl, going, "Which lady you mean, Blondie? You want to go, Goldilocks?" Again, the whole Banner and Hulk talking and conversing, that's a motif I did like. And again, the Enchantress is messing with the Hulk's mind, but ultimately is able to overcome it. And there's a crowd-pleasing moment where Hulk goes, "No one controls the Hulk," and ready to beat the fucking shit out of her. But he like smashes the ground and topples her. Like, that was a good moment. That was a nice, pleasing moment, considering, again, the shit that happens in the live-action movies of late. Now, this is when they begin setting up these villains. Like, they deal with Zemo. Like, in episode 9, that's when Captain America gets to the present, because Hulk doesn't want to deal with the Avengers. He leaves. The Avengers are looking for Hulk, but then they come across the area where Captain America is frozen. He just melted. And it was a cool bit of an episode because you got to see Captain America, how he deals against the Avengers. I thought that was pretty badass. Nice crowd-pleasing moment for a Captain America fan. And then ultimately, while some of them are dealing with this monster, Captain America is dealing with Zemo, Baron Zemo, where there's a bit of history between them two. But you did a bit of a build-up, quite a bit of a build-up, where a bad guy will escape, and then the bad guys from before will approach this person and go, "You want to join our team?" So it's the Enchantress and her butt boy, and then Zemo, and then there's this guy, Wonder Man, who I thought was a good guy in the comics, but maybe I don't know all the details, so I could easily be wrong. And then this other character, voiced by Mark Hamill, actually, that was in the more of the Black Panther episode. Claw, that was his name. And that gets into one of my nitpicks on the season, and I'll get to details in a minute, but you go through a lot of this build-up of they deal with a bad guy, and if he gets away or you think he's defeated, he pops back up, hey, join our bad guy team. And this goes on for quite a bit. And then when this team finally fights the Avengers, it doesn't seem like much. Where it's many episodes of build-up, so then you think, oh man, it's going to be many episodes of this conclusion, where it's like the Avengers versus the evil Avengers, and the way the Avengers will win is when they all work together, and so you used to fight this guy, like Cap used to fight Zemo. Oh, how about Hulk versus Zemo? And how about Captain America versus Enchantress? And Iron Man versus this guy? And Ant-Man versus Wonder Man? And then they're working together, and it's teamwork, and it's them teamwork like Captain America and Hulk. You know, they double team on Wonder Man, or like that's what I mean. Like this is why the Avengers work and succeed, is because they work together and they're a cohesive whole, while this evil Avengers are not, and they're in just for themselves. Their selfishness leads to defeat. No, though, I mean, that really doesn't come into play at all. It just... they kind of get caught easily, and then it's up to Hawkeye and Hulk to go in and help them out and untie the Avengers, and the bad guys escape to fight another day, like one more time. But it's like, I don't know if the makers of the show thought they only had one season, so they have to try to get everything out that they can. Because in one season, they do that, but then they also go into Kang the Conqueror stuff, and then his alien invasion, and that goes on for more episodes. That felt like they had more episodes than the stuff you were building up to with these other bad guys. I go, okay, no, I guess that's not the main gist of the plot for the season. Now it's Kang the Conqueror. Oh, never mind, that gets done after a few episodes. Now it's about Ultron. I'm like, hold it, time out. You're trying to do all this stuff in one go. Like, this is stuff you could... But again, I guess they felt they didn't know how many seasons they would get, and... But on the flip side, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of doing this whole big build-up of these villains, and then to me, the result of it, after all that build-up, wasn't really that satisfying. And it's like, oh, we're done, now we're going to Kang the Conqueror. Oh, now we're going to Ultron. It's like, okay. But again, there's still a lot of cool stuff here. Like, it was great to have Lance Henriksen, who plays this villain, which I don't know who this villain in the comics is. He's called the Grim Reaper. But it was cool to have him be a part of it. Then there's a part where the Avengers help Black Panther. And I didn't mind the way Black Panther was used here. Pretty much they're helping Panther, they're helping Wakanda. That's where Mark Hamill is another villain called Claw. Not Dr. Claw, but him and Lance Henriksen are working together to get this vibranium from the mines in Wakanda, and Ant-Man and Iron Man are trying to stop it, while Cap is helping Panther a bit. I guess this villain called Man-Ape. Although Captain America doesn't get to do a whole lot, sadly. And it felt like at times like it was a Black Panther episode, but it felt like more of the importance was put into the vibranium mines, which I guess made sense because of certain things that happen that could create a whole fucking explosion. And like I said, I do wish Captain America had a bit more to do. Thor's dying in that episode, and I don't think Hulk was in that episode either. Because that's another thing is that when Captain America arrives, Hulk disappears for quite a few episodes. Because, which I do at least will give credit that at least they're trying to do a continuity. Well, yeah, you're not seeing Hulk for 3-4 episodes because he's pissed at what the Avengers did after the Enchantress tried to control him, so he fucked off. And then when the Avengers needs help, Hawkeye is searching for Hulk. He's like, I don't want you, I want Dr. Banner. Which is about this gamma radiation thing going on. And like I say, it was kind of cool to have Hawkeye in his suit like the comics and Hulk working together. I thought that was a pretty interesting team. And that was also an episode where this gamma radiation changed some of the other Avengers into these monster beings, which was... Although you didn't have a lot of the Hulk fighting the changed Avengers, I think that would have been cool to have Hulk fight the changed Iron Man, the changed Captain America. At least a bit more of that. I think that would have been neat to see. But instead, you have Hawkeye come in and he has the arrows, has antidotes in them, and then the Hulk does his thing. But yeah, the Hulk does get some nice moments to shine. And like I said, I think Jeffrey Combs is the voice of the leader. That was cool to hear. Other episodes, like the villains, like I said, the build of them getting together, and I just thought the big fight could have been better, could have been much more epic. It didn't feel epic. It felt as if we want to blow our load, but we can't blow our load, so it's maybe just a tease. I just didn't feel much of a multi-part saga, but then Kang the Conqueror, they employ that. And not just, by the way, not just Ultron, but also Loki. Because I wanted to wait until get further. The whole thing was Loki too. And the 9 realms and Asgard. So it's like, they really tried to do as much as they could. The only reason they didn't do Doctor Doom is because they saved that for season 2. So in 26 episodes, it's breakout with all these 73, 74 villains. Okay, it's going to be about them catching all these villains. Well, yes, but no, because some of them, they just form their own evil superhero team. Supervillain team. Okay. They're catching these villains, there'll be a build-up to... These will be the final villains that they have to defeat after catching these other 70-some villains. No. The fight wasn't much, and now we're going to Kang the Conqueror, mad at Captain America because you deleted my timeline because you're not supposed to exist here. And then here's an alien invasion, and then the Avengers get in spacesuits and they go up, which is, cool to see. Them working together to deal with Kang. Nice seeing, because I remember Kang the Conqueror, the way he looked from the comics. They do respect that nature, and he does look like he did in the comics, which is cool to see. Because they're not going to do that for the live action stuff, of course not. Because Marvel can do anything they want, and they can do no wrong, though. At one point, there is Captain Marvel, and there is Carol Danvers, although it's not the same person. I did like in one episode, Captain America is teaching Tony Stark how to fight. And so he's teaching him how to fight and keeps hitting Tony Stark. And in the bleachers, you have Hawkeye and Hulk laughing at Tony Stark. You have bits like that I thought were fun. I would say overall this does a respectful job on the Avengers and having stories that's trying to take itself a bit more serious and not kidified cartoon. It's not like nowadays we have... Remember that thing Thundercats War? Or that shitty 2018 Ninja Turtles cartoon that was so great they didn't even last 3 seasons. At least they're attempting to build up these characters and have it, like I said, sometimes cartoons, something will happen and then it gets completely forgotten in the next episode, and that doesn't seem too much of a case in this. Again, the whole villain team up, I think that should have been much more epic. I think that's what it should have centered on. But it's like, nope, we did it, but we got Kang the Conqueror, we gotta do that. Okay, they go up and they stop him and they're in space and they're using the help of Ultron robots, which Ant-Man helped Tony Stark with. Oh, now we're going to deal with Ultron. Oh, now we're going to deal with Loki and the 9 realms. And it's like... I mean, I get that. I mean, there's many shows I like that have done that, where you have one arc, then they go into others throughout the season, because that's cool. But I just... If setting up the 73, 74 villains that are still out there after the prison breakout, it felt like they were setting stuff up, and there's some stuff they didn't really pay off as well as they should. Again, this whole prison breakout with 73, 74 villains out there, okay, you think it's like the 13 ghosts of Scooby-Doo. You set up these ghosts are out there, we gotta go get these fucking ghosts. Was it 13? I'm trying to remember. The one where Vincent Price voiced in Scooby-Doo. I think it was called the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. Anyway. Okay, this is set up. Let's see the big payoff. I didn't go and build up these villain team up. Let's see the big payoff. Okay, it's really not that big of a payoff. Again, that's where my disappointment comes in. It's like, we'll pay that off first. Then you could go to Kang the Conqueror. Then you could go to... But I guess they put that in the background, so... Maybe it's like some kind of weird dichotomy of... We're going to set this up so that if we do get second, third seasons, we could go back to that and have sort of a skeleton that we have these villains out there and there's this evil villain team up. But also, we want to make sure to do Loki and Ultron and Kang in case we don't get a season 2. So idea is like this weird... I don't know, maybe it's a big conundrum that they had and they couldn't fully overcome. But like I say, I think for the most part, although Wasp, I will say, she got on my nerves a bit with her... Yeah, her demeanor, I get it, she's energetic, she's really into this. I was ready for her to go, yippee! I was ready for her to say that, she didn't. But, just, like, her powers to me just seem so fucking useless. These little zappers that, my eyes! And it's like she's just felt like the glorified cheerleader. And I get it, she's the female of the group. I have no issues with that, it's just... I don't know, she just... She's not awful, she's not terrible, it's just from time to time, let me be fair, not all the time. But there were times where she would just get on my nerves and be like, just be quiet, shh. Like I said, I think, if I understand, this show lasted season 2, until season 2, which I believe there's an episode with Wolverine and Spider-Man There's a bit where all the heroes have to get together to face this bigger threat. There's, I think, a bit of Doctor Doom, I believe, and Fantastic Four. And I guess it got canceled, and then they got another show that seemed, oh, we don't just change shit just because. And I guess that's kind of the sad thing with Marvel, is that their animation division is not nearly as succinct as DC. Because you look at like the DC animated films, especially Batman, they're just much more prominent than Marvel. Other than, well, that's not Marvel, but Sony did Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but I'm talking about the direct-to-video VOD market. I think there's a lot of anime stuff they could deal with, but Disney doesn't want to do that because, well, that's connected with Disney. When people think of Disney and animation, they think of Disney princesses, and Disney is just a shitty fucking choice. Just saying. But yeah, I would say if you're a fan of the Avengers and you like these characters and you want to see them done with a decent amount of action and a decent amount of respect, I do feel at the end of the day, these were people making the show that were fans of the comics that wanted to do justice as much as they could. And while I do think there's some imperfections here and there, I thought overall I didn't really view characters done dirty. Maybe people thought Black Widow was, but I honestly don't give a fuck about Black Widow. I actually like that Hawkeye seemed like more of the good guy, because Hawkeye just interests me more. I guess at this point, the voices work. I don't say I wonder if celebrity voices would have helped with maybe some type of marketing or some type of thing. And plus, it would have been nice if at least some of the actors returned. But like I said, they want to do different things. This is our show, has not connected with that, so we do our own thing. I can understand that. And like I said, there's quite a few different villains, and I think people are more knowledgeable with the comics. They would even get more out of this than I would. But yeah, Avengers, Mightiest Heroes, pretty decent season 1. It was pretty decent. It is about 26 episodes long. So they didn't just do 8 or 10 episodes. It's 26, quite a bit. I mean, if I'm supposed to pick my favorite and least favorite episode, the least favorite is when the villain team up fight the Avengers, because that's when like most of them get tied up, and then Hulk does a little bit of business, and it's like, it just didn't seem epic. It didn't seem worth the build up, at least to me. My favorite, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I really have a favorite. Again, the Hulk, Enchantress controlling his mind and him overcoming it, that's a pretty decent episode. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was pretty decent or serviceable, but I'm not feeling a strong emotion of favorite, so maybe then other stuff is, like, I would put Batman the Animated Series above this, or Spectacular Spider-Man, or X-Men, or other cartoons above this. But again, that doesn't mean it was bad, it's just there's others I like better, but overall, I'd just say this was still pretty decent, and definitely more worthwhile than fucking Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, which I think are completely overrated. That's just my opinion. So overall, this is pretty decent stuff, though. Again, Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Season 1. So with that said, thanks for watching, take care, and we will see you guys later. Bye-bye.